everyone, it's John from What Up, and welcome back to another video, and happy Easter egg hunting. Yes, it's that time for my Season 2, Episode 3 Easter egg video. I've gone through the episode with a fine-tooth comb, and I found a ton of stuff to talk about with you folks, but by no means have I found everything. I know there's a bunch of stuff I likely missed, so if you folks happen to spot something, let me know in the comments down below. I'll eventually go back through towards the end of Season 2, find all of the little Easter eggs that you folks found that I missed, pin them all in a comment, and then of course do a video about it, crediting every single person that went through and found them, because I didn't. Now, if you're new to the channel, you don't know what we do here, we talk about the Wheel of Time. That's probably pretty self-evident at this point. We are almost exclusively a Wheel of Time channel. We're doing reviews, breakdown videos, and Easter egg videos for every single episode of Season 2. We also talk about the news and leaks and whatnot surrounding the Wheel of Time. They're filming Season 3 right now, and I have a ton of Season 3 leaks ready for you folks once Season 2 is done. So if you don't want to miss any of that stuff, make sure you subscribe, and of course tell all your friends, like the video, do whatever you can to increase the reach of What Up, because although we are not a huge channel, we are one of the more positive Wheel of Time channels out there, and I know there's a ton of negativity out there. There's a lot of people that dislike the show. That's fine. You can dislike the show that you want, but there are numbers of channels dedicated just to pure negativity surrounding the show, and we don't do that here. We'll give constructive criticism. We'll talk about the show in a positive light. Of course, I like it, I enjoy it, and this is a fun little hobby for me, so that's why we do that. So if you like that sort of thing, if you like positivity, make sure you subscribe and tell your friends. Now, before we get into the Easter eggs, I have to give a bit of a spoiler warning because I don't want to ruin anything for you folks. So, spoiler warning. In today's video, since we're talking Easter eggs from Season 2, Episode 3 of The Wheel of Time, if you have not watched the first season of The Wheel of Time and the first 3 episodes of Season 2 and have not read the entire book series, yes, I'm giving spoiler warnings for the entire book series. That's The Eye of the World all the way up to and A Memory of Light in the Wheel of Time series by Robert Jordan and Brandon Sanderson. Be forewarned, I'm going to ruin plot points and character arcs from both those mediums. All right, all of that being said, let's get on to the video. All right, so remember, full book spoilers, but just as a reminder, you folks, if you haven't read the books, it's not a huge deal. I'm going to ruin some stuff, I 100% will, but I'm not going to tell you the ending of the books or anything like that. It's just things that happen much later on in the books, and they're all over the place. That's the reason for the full book spoilers. So if you don't really mind spoilers too much, the video's fine. But if you don't like spoilers at all, and you were reading the book series and you don't know anything that happens further on, then likely don't watch this video. All right, so we're starting off in Nynaeve's accepted test. The very first thing I noticed when she went into the past part of her test was that her hair was unbraided. I thought that was a nice little nod because as soon as I saw that and her clothing looked pretty childlike, I was like, well, perhaps Eleanor Jr. is really Nynaeve. And lo and behold, we have Nynaeve looking in the water and seeing herself as a young girl. So in the first part of the accepted test, it was kind of a nice nod. If you didn't know Two Rivers Customs, the fact that when women become of age, they have to braid their hair, you probably wouldn't have noticed this, but I thought it was a cool little nod to the culture because she is a child in this past life or past part of the accepted test, and her hair is unbraided. I thought that was kind of neat. A nice little detail. Outside, when you have Sheriam, Lyanna, and Leander Sedai waiting to cleanse Nynaeve after each one of the different arches, you have 3 different pots. These pots are filled with water, and they pour it over her to cleanse her when she comes out. And there's a black pot, a white pot, and then a pot with this ancient symbol of the Aes Sedai with the white and the black kind of swirled together. That's the final pot. So she has to go through the other 2 first. She's then cleansed with a pot that depicts the symbol of the Aes Sedai, and she's given her accepted ring, which is sort of like the official indoctrination into the tower. Yes, novices join the tower, they sign their name in the novice book, but not everyone makes it to accepted because you have to go through this. It's an actual test of sorts, and it's the first step in the road to becoming a full sister. So I thought it was a nice little neat Easter egg that they're using a pot with the ancient symbol of the Aes Sedai on it. Very cool. Now this is prior to when Nynaeve goes to the future part of her accepted test. There's 3 arches. The 3rd arch depicts the future. I had to watch this at 0.25 speed because when I saw it initially at full speed, all I saw was flashes of Nynaeve in a red dress. I didn't really understand what was going on here. I actually dove into the books for a bit, and I was trying to figure out if this was a reference to when Nynaeve cleared her block in the books. Remember, I gave you full book spoilers because she's thrashing around in the water, she's dressed up, and she actually has an Aes Sedai ring in her finger. And then there was some scenes of Lan and whatnot, but it flashed by pretty quickly. So I went back and watched it at 0.25 speed, and I caught a couple of different things. The first thing is not only is Nynaeve in a red dress, she's wearing a red Aja Aes Sedai ring. And those little flashes with Lan were her attacking them with the hatchet. She was basically chopping them up. I thought that was pretty brutal, but what has been happening in the show? Liandrin has been courting her. So there's sort of a dichotomy within Nynaeve right now. She wants to learn healing. She's expressed some interest in the Yellow Aja so far within the show. Not a whole lot, but a little bit, but she's spending an awful lot of time with Liandrin, and Liandrin is kind of maybe not coaching her so much because they're at odds right now because Liandrin's pretty mad at her, but it would be a huge win for the Red Aja if someone of Nynaeve's power and talent joined, and I think this first part was, what if she was Red Aja? Then of course she wouldn't be helping Rand. She wouldn't be helping them hide and train the Dragon Reborn. She would be at odds with everybody on his side. So I think that's where that one came from. I thought it was really neat either way, but I had to go back, like I said, and watch it in 0.25 speed to get any of this at all. But it was a nice little background effect. Now, she comes out, of course, this is after chopping them all up. She's covered in blood. That's what made me go back. I was like, well, she did something, but what did she do? And she's holding Lan's Hindori, which is his braided leather cord he wears around his head. And, of course, she did something terrible. And this was the very first part of the future archway. Of course, it was sort of a... I don't want to say another fake death, so to speak, in the show, because this did happen in the book series. The Archway did disappear, and Nynaeve did make it come back much later on. It is a reference and a nod to things that actually happened within the accepted test, that she didn't come out right away. She eventually does come out. We've seen it at the end of the episode, of course. We know she comes out anyway because of the books. She's in the books right up to the very end. But really, really neat little kind of nod to that. Now, the next thing I want to talk about is this. This is the Seanchan. So the Seanchan have the Shienarans, Perrin and Loyal basically captured within this kind of river village. But what I noticed about this particular scene here is you have the damane come down and she's wandering around and she's looking through the crowd and she's pointing at women and kind of hauling them away. The shot before that is this. Everyone on the left-hand side of the screen are men. Everyone on the right-hand side of the screen are women. She's going through and choosing the women who can channel and pulling them out so they can become damane just like her, because one of the things the Seanchan cannot handle is women who can channel. Basically, they're not real people. They're property. They're like a thing to them. And they have to be controlled and leashed so they don't scare everyone, because it's a horrifying thing to the Seanchan that a woman is not leashed. So this is what they're doing here. I had to go back and watch it again. Like I said, I thought it was really neat. They actually split them up at first, and then she went through and chose out all the women who could channel. All right, so next up is this. When the Seanchan speak in the show, they're the only people speaking with an American accent. And in fact, when Alwyn, Serath's voice, is speaking, she's speaking with a very, very slight Texan accent. It's almost imperceivable, but it is there, and that is a nod to the way the Seanchan speak within the books. Now, it would be pretty meta, I think, if someone in the book series just mentioned, you guys sound like Texans. They never did that. However, Robert Jordan, in a number of different interviews, did mention that that slow drawl that they speak with in the books is a Texan accent, and that was done on purpose. So, very slight nod to that, and I thought it was very cool for them to include that in the show. Next up, we have Logain. Logain is a minor Geldon noble, but he's also a false dragon that was stilled, I guess is the best way to put it. He was cut off from the one power in the first season. Here he is in a sanatorium with Rand. He has obviously succumbed to the taint just a little bit. He's not completely in his right mind at this point in time. But what's neat about these scenes is Logain is always wearing blue. As a minor Geldon noble, of course, he has a sigil. It's 3 golden crowns on a field of blue. So he has a blue stone in his ring. He's wearing blue. And that's a nod to the fact that he was at one point a Geldon noble. Now, when he proclaimed himself false dragon, they stripped him of his lands and his titles. So he's really no longer a noble. So not only did he lose the one power, he's lost everything. His heritage, his minor bits of power he did enjoy as a minor noble. He has no lands, no titles. All that was taken from him. So really neat that they're showcasing him here in blue, because that's part of his sigil. I thought it was neat anyway. Now, this here is an Easter egg, because we have up till this point in the series not seen a real gleeman's cloak. Let's face it, as cool as Tom was in season 1, and we haven't seen him in season 2, and as far as I know, he's not going to be in season 2 because he wasn't around for filming. he was not wearing the iconic gleeman's cloak that we come to know and love from the book series. This here is what the show's representation of it is. This is a gleeman out in the streets. There was a whole lot of speculation how the gleeman was going to fit into the series. We didn't know that they would be just a character kind of as a shot as you go by during the telling of the Great Hunt of the Horn outside, but we did get to see that really cool gleeman's cloak, so this is what it looks like for the show, and I thought that was a nice, neat little nod to the fans. Next up is this. This one is sort of hit you in the face with the hammer if you've read the book series. Selene shows up a couple of different times, and in the background here you have the crescent moon, which is a symbol of Lanfear, the daughter of the night. That is what everyone associates with her. All the chapter icons that have Selene or Lanfear in them have this. And I thought it was really very neat that they showed that in the background at her inn, where she's basically sitting outside with Rand. And it does appear again later on in the episode on the bed, and we'll talk about that when we get there. But really nice little nod to the fact that Selene is actually Lanfear for people who've read the books. I mean, people would know anyway, but I think it was really cool nonetheless. All right, this coat. This coat has been all the rage. The fandom's talking about it a whole lot. This is Rand al'Thor from the cover of the Fires of Heaven. Yes, this is the exact same coat that he wore in that painting. I thought it was really neat that they actually included it in the show. I thought it was really, really cool, actually. But a nice little nod to the book readers. If you had read the book series with the original covers by Daryl Sweet, you're going to recognize this coat, and I thought it was just a nice little touch when they added it in here. Next up is this. He's speaking with this woman here, and there was a whole lot of speculation on who she could be, what was going on. This is Moiraine's sister. So not an Easter egg so much as something they didn't really smack you over the head with it, but if you had read the book series, you would know about Moiraine's family, and in the show, they had actually cast Moiraine's sister, and although they didn't come right out and say that this is Lady Damodred, Moiraine's sister, that's who this is. And I think it's kind of a neat thing that Rand meets her at this party, because we know for a fact in episode 4, which is out this evening, very soon, Moiraine is likely making her way to Cairhien. And who's she going to see there? Well, family. It's already been mentioned in a bunch of the promotional material and interviews. So she's likely going to go see her sister. Her sister will mention Rand, and then bam, this young Andoran nobleman. Moiraine's going to put 2 and 2 together, and I think that's how they're going to meet. And she's going to help him navigate the Das Daemar, or the Game of Houses in Cairhien, which I think is really cool. All right, next up is this. This is something I wanted to mention, and I don't really know if it's an Easter egg or if it is a complete departure from what's going to happen from the book series. Either way, in the book series, Perrin is very fearful of his journey to become a wolf brother, mainly because he met someone named Noam. Noam basically forgot who he was and became a wolf in a man's body. He had attacked people, bit out throats of animals and whatnot, and in this scene here, we see Elias coming to rescue Perrin, and he has blood all over his mouth, and then right after that, there's a Seanchan soldier outside on the ground, dead, with his throat bit out. So I'm not quite sure if this is a nod to the Noam story, and this is what they're going to use to make Perrin fearful of becoming too much of a wolf, or if they're going to actually include that in the show. All right, next up is, again, I mentioned that we would see this again. This is where Rand burns down the inn. He wakes up from channeling the one power in his sleep, and he's basically set the place ablaze. On the head of his bed, there is another crescent moon, another symbol of Lanfear. So they're kind of peppered all over the place within this episode. I thought it was very neat that they did that. Just a big nod to the fact that Selene is actually Lanfear. Now, one of the things is we know at one point or another during this season, we're going to see the release of Lanfear. I don't know if it's going to be a flashback, like a cold open where they're talking about things that happened earlier and she sort of sets herself up in Cairhien, but definitely Selene is Lanfear, and all these little nods are just confirming it. Now, we're on to Nynaeve's final arch, her final part of her accepted test, and there's a couple of Easter eggs in here that are pretty big ones. The first one is Mat. Mat is showing up in fancy lord's clothes. A little bit of lace never hurt anybody, he's been known to say occasionally. It's just a nod to what Mat Cauthon is actually like much later on in the series. The way Donal Finn acts as Mat here pretty much mirrors the way Mat acts much later on. He's also dressed up, he's affluent, he's wealthy, and he's finally sort of kind of accepted being not really a bloody lord, so to speak, but a little bit that way like he does later on in the book series. But I thought it was a nice nod because this is in the future, because Lan and Nynaeve are married, they have a daughter. The daughter looks to be at least 10 years old, I would say. So you're looking at quite some time in the future from present day in the show. So Matt probably found his luck, probably gambled a whole bunch, got a whole bunch of money, and I'm sure there's a Telemans somewhere around here that he's missing. He's going to be a fan favorite when we actually see him, but really nice that they showcased Matt like this. Next thing is also Matt. Matt here with one of his eyes gouged out. A huge piece of foreshadowing to much later on in the series. We're not quite sure if they're going to include his full storyline where he has to give up half the light of the world to save the other half the light of the world, if he has to die to live again. But at one point or another in the series, Matt loses one of his eyes, and this is a huge bit of foreshadowing to that because it does happen much, much later. Part of the reason why I gave full book spoilers for this. But it's nice to see that they're thinking about these things that would happen later on in the series, because they do happen much later on in the book series. And then we're going to end here with one final Easter egg. Everyone's always asking, where's Perrin's axe? Well, there it is right there. I'm sorry, I couldn't help it. Poor Perrin, he hasn't really gotten his axe yet. Now, in the book series, he has an axe that he carries with him from Emond's Field. It was something that he created, or helped create himself, for a merchant's guard, and they never actually settled on a price. So he got to keep it when Master Logain found him practicing with it. So he doesn't really have that axe in the series. There's been a bunch of little nods to it here and there. In the first episode of season 1, he picked up a woodcutter's axe. In the last episode of season 8, he actually had a battle axe. We see Lord Ingtar carrying a battle axe around with him all the time. We all pretty much know what's going to happen with Lord Ingtar towards the end of this season, because if it's anything like the book series, he's not going to be around much longer. I'm wondering if maybe that is the axe that Perrin finally picks up. Either way, we haven't really seen Perrin with an axe yet, and it's getting close to that part of the storyline where he's going to start trying to decide between a hammer and an axe. So he should get his axe soon, but I think this is a nice little nod to that. He died by the axe here, so maybe he's going to be getting one soon. All right, so that's all the Easter eggs I picked up in this episode. There were a lot of them, and like I said, there are probably a ton more. If you folks have seen them, let me know down below in the comments. Of course, also let me know how you liked the episode. In my review video, a ton of people seem to agree that this is the best episode of the season. I certainly loved it. I loved the first episode, and I love this episode. The middle episode, episode 2, was good, don't get me wrong. It just was not near as good as this one or the first episode of the season. I'm thoroughly enjoying season 2 so far. I think it is absolutely fantastic TV, and the building blocks of the series are all there. Sometimes they're in different locations, sometimes they're in different places, sometimes they're with different characters, but this season, at least to me anyway, is far more Wheel of Time than season 1. They're spending more time with the characters, they're doing more character development, we're seeing deeper into the motivations of some of the characters, and we're actually seeing big glimpses of flashes of their book personas right on screen, which makes me incredibly happy. I can't wait to see where they're going with the rest of the season. Like I said, episode 4 comes out tonight. Expect a review from me tonight within about 2 hours of the drop of episode 4, which means that I'll likely release my episode 3 breakdown video tomorrow morning, my episode 4 Easter egg video tomorrow afternoon, and then my breakdown the following day. And then we have a couple of news videos to get to later on in the week, probably Sunday, Monday-ish time frame. A bunch of stuff has happened recently, and there's been some promos that included new footage from later on in the season that I'm going to start getting to. Now, so far, the theme seems to have been a small promo a couple of days prior to the release on the Wednesday of the episode. There was a promo this week for episode 4. I didn't even watch it. I haven't gotten there yet because I'm busy making these videos, and I didn't want to ruin what episode 4 is happening tonight when I actually do watch it. But going forward, if they do more promos for the episodes, expect to see a video each Wednesday from me on them, because it includes a small scene that gives you hints to what's to come. And this particular promo scene for episode 4 was entitled Salt, and it included Lan dining with Alana and her warders, so we know that Lan is with them on the road, out and about doing things. So I'm not quite sure where that's going to go, but we're going to find out tonight either way. So, like I said earlier, if you like Wheel of Time stuff, if you like my videos, please subscribe, and of course tell your friends, tell your family, shout it from the rooftops if you can, because I really enjoy doing this, and it's a whole lot of fun. So thank you so very much for sticking with us here to the very end. Here's to many more.